And we'll get started. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Diane. I'm so happy to be with everyone this morning, despite everything that's going on around us. It's kind of a special moment to really sit back and learn. So with that, I want to introduce Maaike Doyer, founder of Epic Angels. Maaike is an entrepreneur, educator, and investor. In the past decade, she has led a global business design firm, which she personally brought from Europe to the US and then scaled in both New York and San Francisco. She's helped hundreds of organizations with their business strategy, and she's now deploying her experience and talent in Singapore with Epic Angels. To me, I was thinking about Maaike last night, she's really like our modern day Renaissance woman. So we're really lucky to have her here with us. I've really been looking forward to this session and to learn from Maaike about the mission she's on to democratize angel investing. So I thought just really quickly, before we turn it over to Maaike and learn, I wanted to ask this group if we could do a quick survey, and using the chat, please share with us if you've ever invested in a startup. Just put a quick yes or no in, and we'll scan everyone's answers throughout our session. Please also use the chat to ask any questions, and I'll try to pick them up and get to all of them. So with that, while we're looking for everyone, we're looking at everyone's responses. Maaike, if you could tell us a bit more about yourself and your journey to arrive at launching Epic Angels, and what gap is Epic Angels trying to fill, and what opportunities are you creating with the platform?
Yes. So indeed, good evening from Singapore at 10 p.m. here right now. So it's not bad at all. And I prefer late evenings instead of early mornings. So this totally works for me. Indeed, as you mentioned, I was born in Europe, in the Netherlands, and always worked at the traditional Big Four. Quickly learned that writing business plans is not going to change the world, and so that's when I started to work at Business Models Inc., a design firm, design thinking agency, and the producer of the Business Model Canvas. So with that book, we started to expand global. I was the global CFO of the company. So, and I indeed expanded the company into the US, San Francisco and New York, as it's being mentioned. And the business model canvas, I mean, what we were doing was we mainly helped corporates to innovate like startups. And at the same time, many startups use this whole thinking and methodology very natural. So they also knocked on our door. So already from the start, I've been working with so many startups as well to help them with their pitch decks and help them in conversations with investors with their strategy. I've been building accelerator programs, build the curriculum for that, like how can you actually get these startups to scale faster, to scale better. So I've been always in that ecosystem. And then when I moved to San Francisco, even more, as you can imagine. And if you talk about investing and angel investing, definitely in San Francisco, it's almost like getting a coffee. It's so mainstream. It's so everyday. It's nothing special. And when I moved to Singapore about a year and a half ago, so in the middle of the whole pandemic, we decided to move here. Here in Singapore, what I learned was that angel investing was seen as something very elite, something very special. Like, oh, you have to be a multi-millionaire to be able to do angel investing. I'm like, that's weird, because in San Francisco you can invest with $1,000 and that's okay, So I was like, where's that coming from? And the other thing that I also got to discover here in Singapore is there's so many amazing women here. Like, honestly, I don't know if you know any people in Singapore, but I'm really shocked in a very positive way about the amount of power women that I have around me here in this city country that I'm living in. It's really exceptional, like so much more than I've ever had in anywhere else in the world. So these two came together, and because also when I started to speak with these women, you talk about investing. I mean, I studied math, and I was a CFO, so I've always been a number person. Also here in our household, my husband doesn't know a single thing about investing, and he doesn't care either. Like I take care of our pension portfolio. I manage our assets. And recently, he even said like, I don't even know, like if something would happen to you, I don't even know how to access all this stuff, right? So just to show it's my passion, it's the thing that I've always been doing. I like doing that. And so when I spoke with these other ladies about that, I learned that most women, unfortunately, they keep their money in the bank. because it's like, it's such a big hurdle. Like, I know I need to do something, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. Women in general are more risk averse or risk aware. I think that's a better way of saying that. So it's much harder. And with that all combined, it's like we need to do something about that. Because even for myself, if I write that check for a startup, I still start to doubt, even though I know I'm qualified to judge and to do my due diligence on that startup and to make some good decisions at least, I still doubt. So I was like, what can we do? And my assumption was, if I look at the startup, but Nicole also looked at it, and like everyone else looked at it as well and gave their opinion, I feel much more comfortable to actually write that check and put my money in there. At least I haven't missed anything, because all these different perspectives together just makes me feel more comfortable. And that's what got together in Epic Angels. So we're a female investment network. So it's women investors only, and on the mission to, as I say, democratize angel investing, and meaning it becomes accessible for everyone to actually start to invest, feel comfortable to invest, and learn from each other and do that with each other.
Wow. It's I'm very interested in this idea that Singapore kind of presented this new opportunity. And you touched on this a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about how you find the entrepreneurial environment in Asia. How is it different from, these startup hubs in the US and Europe, where what I gather is people kind of know where to go to find their startup communities? How does that play out in Singapore?
I think Singapore, it's really Asia. If you look into that, definitely Southeast Asia as is the region here and all the countries around, but Asia in general. Also, as Epic Angels, we invest specifically in Asia, like any startup here. Why do we not invest in the US? Because I think actually valuations of US companies are through the roof. It's really sometimes insane. They just put an idea on a piece of paper and like, we're worth 30 million. I mean, you just wrote a PowerPoint, right? You haven't done anything yet. And Europe, unfortunately, is a little bit retired most of the time. So I don't know, I'm not so sure about that. What I see here in Asia, it's like the juveniles that are like turning into adolescents, and some still hitting puberty and doing some weird stuff. But you see that there are some gems popping up, and it's still trying to find its way. Singapore can be a little bit of a schoolboy following the rules, but I can see that it is, it's finding its own identity and its own character. So it's really booming here. You also see slowly all the investment, the VC money moving into Asia. It's almost doubled in the last year. Also the investment money coming in from the US into the market, because something is happening here. There is still so much potential. There's so many people living here, and there are so many things that haven't been done yet. So that's definitely what I see, that whole opportunity that's out here.
Sounds like a real energy in the market. Can you tell us about what goes into running Epic Angels Network, from attracting investors to meeting with entrepreneurs, sourcing deals, diligence? How do you keep it all in motion? To me, it seems like 101 jobs in one.
Which it is, yeah. So it's super, because it started more as let's come together with a few ladies and then, figure out how we're going to invest. And from the start, because there's a lot of stories around, we need to support female founders. And that's where a lot of conversations are about. I actually think instead of focusing on the female founders, I think we need to increase the number of female investors, because that is, in my opinion, the biggest issue, because it's so hard to try to convince a guy to invest in a woman. By nature, you just invest what you are familiar with. That's just, it's just a human thing. We can't blame the guys that they are doing that and that they're investing in guys as well. But there's just not enough female investors. And I think if we increase the amount of female investors, automatically more money will go to female entrepreneurs as well. So my focus is, you want to say something, Nicole?
No, go on.
Yeah, no, because that focus is really on that part, and that's how we started it. And then funny enough, because we invest in both male and female-led companies, we say like we invest in anyone, although we also say we need to see women executive power in your team. And so don't come with a team of 4 guys. That's just nonsense regardless. And so we need to see that, and we need to see that on the cap table as well, and not just on a piece of paper, but that this person really needs to have some decision power. But it can be, it doesn't need to be a female founder or anything. And so we're a little loose about that. But what started to happen when people got to notice us, they're like, there's a group of female investors, and female founders started to reach out. They're like, hey, we see a group of women investors only. We want you on our cap table because we only have these male investors. We don't want that. We want women. Or because startups with specific, more female-oriented products, they also approached us like, we can't have just guys on our cap table. We need you to support us. So it was really interesting to see how almost automatically things started to move and got a little out of control from that perspective, but in a good way. So we're like, okay, we're onto something by accident, because there's definitely some traction happening right now. And the whole thing about an angel investment network is you need to have sufficient deal flow. There need to be a lot of deals coming in. And I've always been working with accelerator programs. So I was like, that's a great source for all these startups. First of all, these accelerators already vet a lot of startups. So there's already a certain amount of vetting done. So that I know the quality on average is higher from the startups that are coming through accelerators than the ones that are not. So that's a really good filter that you get. Because I think last year we received over 300 pitch decks in the first year. We started in March. And so in those 9-10 months, over 300, like that is really a lot. And we only spoke with about 45 of those. And so you for sure you cannot, but also automatically you start to get an eye for that. You need to vet all these pitches. The stats that I've been reading, and I noticed myself, on average, a VC spends 3.5 minutes on a pitch deck. And I think right now I might be at 4 or 5 minutes because I'm always still trying to find the good in a pitch deck. But you learn how to do that really, really fast. And then, like, nope, this is just not the right quality. This is not for us. Or like, ooh, there's something in this. Let me speak with the founder. And so you become definitely savvy about that. But it's indeed, you need to get all sides of the platform running. So the deal flow, can we get enough high quality deals? So that's all the partnerships that are around us. And that's also the other fun part about angel investing. There's barely competition because even though there might be another angel group, you're not competing with each other because it's in everyone's interest that the startup is going to succeed. So you often share deals. As for example, sometimes we have a deal, but we can't get enough money together with our angels. So like, hey, let's work together with another angel network. And if they also chip in, together, we have a substantial investment into that startup. And it's, again, in everyone's interest that that's happening. VCs also reach out. As angel, you're typically a little earlier on in the lifetime of a startup. So VCs automatically started to reach out to us as well. Like, hey, we have a fund specifically focused on female, women-led startups. So can you please send us yours? Or like when they're ready for the Series A, send them through. Maybe you invest in seed, we will invest in Series A. Good, give them over to us. So that's what I really like about the ecosystem. It's less competition. There's always some competition, of course, but I think especially in the angel groups, it's really nice to work together. So that helps a lot.
Really unique way of doing business. I want to pick up a little bit on what you talked about of attracting investors and attracting women investors. Beyond gender, is there a particular profile you want to attract with your Epic angel investors? Do you require prior investing experience? Is there a certain level that one has to invest in to join your platform?
No, the short answer is no, although there is some legal requirements as well, especially because angel investing as such is a risky business. Because if you invest in the stock exchange, like, don't look at your accounts today, obviously, but usually the swings aren't that bad. But when you invest in a startup, it's either super high or it's zero. So the outcome, the variation of the outcome is pretty extreme. So there is regulation about that as well because it is so risky. It's called accredited investor. So you have to be an accredited investor according to the different country regulations. In the US, an accredited investor means you need to have a joint income of 300,000 US dollars, or, and it's an or, a joint assets of 1 million US dollars. And I think if you add your house to it, it's 2 million or so, something like that. In that range. Singapore, leave it to Singapore to come up with the most strict rules in the world around accredited investors. There it's individual income, so not even, you cannot combine that with your spouse, of 300K Singaporean dollars or 1 million assets Singaporean dollars, and that's on your own, not joint. So the US is, from that perspective, way more flexible. And also the US just change some of the regulations to allow the so-called retail investor to also invest. I mean, and the whole reasoning is you don't want people to go bankrupt over their investments, and that's a good thing, you know. So it's more to protect the people. I also say myself, like in general, don't put more than 10% of your assets in angel investing. I think it's wonderful for diversification. I recommend all our angels to invest between around 25K. I think is sort of a nice amount on an annual basis. And on average, the investments that we make are 5,000 per startup. So they're pretty low. Whereas like here in Singapore, the average I think is 30, 40K that people do per startup. That's quite a lot. If that goes wrong, it hurts, you know. If $5,000 go wrong, okay, you know, it's never fun, but it's okay, you know, it's not going to be a train wreck. And since it's such high risk, I really believe you shouldn't put all your money in one startup and then fingers crossed it's going to survive. You know, only 1 out of 10 startups is surviving. And so you need to really diversify also your angel portfolio. And it's better if you have 50K, it's better to invest 5K in 10 different startups than do all in one, all for the 50K. I really believe in that approach. So I think about requirements. So it's the legal requirements that they're there, and I mean you need to have a little money available, of course, to do that. So yeah.
No, that's helpful. So you talked a little bit about partnering with accelerators, and it sounds like at least having relationships with venture capital firms. And I'm so interested in this idea of how everyone can work together. Can you tell us a little bit more about how those partnerships not only then benefit your portfolio companies, but how do they also benefit the investors sitting within Epic Angels?
Because I mean, right now we have a portfolio company. We invested in the seed stage of them, a Roga company in Bangladesh. And they're now going for the Series A. And so then they knock on our door as well, like, hey, you invested in our seed rounds. We're now going for a Series A. Do you know of a good VC that you can connect us with? So, and I mean, VCs can get to like, what is it, between 100 and 200 pitches a week. That's insane. So as a startup, you need to make sure you have a warm introduction. Without that introduction, it's really hard to get through. So if they approach me and all the angels in our network, definitely the ones that invested, everyone is looking like, hey, which VC do I know, and is sending them through. It's a warm introduction. So the chance of success is much, much higher when you do that. Plus the VC also knows us. So they're like, hey, there's some good women there. I like to work with them. So I'll look at what they send to me. And so that is already a massive win. And of course, if the VC puts the money in that startup, that's going to help us as investors as well, because it's hard as a startup if you through your seed rounds, especially in the Series A, it's called the Valley of Death, that moment. So it's really a tough one. And so if the VC is not be found, you're dead, you know, you're gone, because you spend all that seed money already. That's usually pretty significant already. You know, if there's no more money coming in, it's over. And so they need to have, so for us as early stage investors, that's also important that the VC money comes in, because that will help our startup through the bump.
Got it. So what I poked around at your website before this call, and what really jumped out at me was this mission of forming the largest female-only angel network in Asia. So pretty significant goal. And
Yes.
I was thinking about how you balance that with what you've started talking to us about this challenge of women tending to be more conservative and we'll say deliberate with their money. So I guess tell us a little bit more about what's your pitch for those who view angel investing as just too risky for themselves, or this idea of angel investing is only for those with significant excess funds. And I'll use myself as an example, someone who has limited investing experience. How can I kind of dip my toes into this universe?
So, I mean, what I typically see is, as I said, like $5,000 is the average per investment per angel. But I've also made investments that were only $1,000. And so you can really start with even smaller amounts. If you're really super risk averse, you can, indeed, it depends on your own assets that you have available for this. So you don't immediately need to go crazy big. I started my journey in the US and in San Francisco with the companies like AngelList. AngelList is one that I really, really like. And I can share one of the links with you as well. Let me actually do that right here. That's the link to our syndicate on AngelList for Epic Angels, of course. But with AngelList, what's really good is you can usually invest with only $1,000. And so that is, I would say, a good way in. Like, okay, good, dip my toes. AngelList has some pretty good ones. A lot of the startups on there are even part of Y Combinator. So and it's a good network. The other ones that are even more open to everyone in the public, so if you even want to go lower than that, is Republic and WeFunder. I don't know if you've ever heard of those two. I'll put them here in the chat as well. They are more crowdfunding type of platforms where I think you can even invest with $100 in a startup. Oh, shit.
Do we still have you, Maaike? I'll just give Maaike a second to hopefully have her internet come back on. But I'll share an observation. Hearing Maaike talk is that platforms like WeFunder and Republic, which I'm not familiar with, one thing that it feels like is somewhat missing there is that you don't have this network of education amongst each other. Oh, that was so fast.
Yeah, I'm now on my phone. I don't know, my laptop is not doing what I wanted to do. It's still, there's a circle. Something is happening. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Did it get through in the chat box, the ones that I was saying, or did we miss that?
Let's see.
First one came through.
The AngelList and the WeFunder and the Republic?
Looks like just the Angel.
Okay, good. So the WeFunder and the Republic, probably that's where I got cut off.
No problem. I was just saying to the group that one thing that kind of strikes me is with these other platforms. These other platforms like WeFunder. Okay.
Now I hope it's okay.
You're good. Maaike, with these other platforms where you can invest at lower levels, but it's a little bit more grassroots, one thing that I've always kind of felt is missing is then kind of like the education function and being part of a group. Can you tell us a little bit about how you enjoy a platform such as Epic Angels? What training or services do your investors get that they perhaps wouldn't get with, kind of something like WeFunder that's kind of open to the masses?
Yeah, I mean, indeed, it's open to the masses, as you say. So is the AngelList as well. So I think it's really hard to still hear something. It's really hard indeed to. Okay, sorry. Leave meeting. Yeah, it should be fine. And so it's because it's more anonymous and you're on your own, there's a chat going on about a deal, but then still you don't know. I think indeed the power is of a group. I mean, even today, I spoke with a lady that wanted to join Epic Angels, and she's already part of another network with a lot of guys in there. So she reached out. She's like, I said, I really need that group around me. I don't want to do angel investing on my own. I want to be able to discuss this with someone. And we come together every month. Where we discuss the deals that are at that moment at the table. So in person, we meet. I mean, here in Singapore, you can only meet with 5 people. They're still very strict. And so we have multiple sessions happening, and there's an online version of it as well. But we go through that agenda in person. And then in between, we have a Slack channel where we're exchanging thoughts as a channel per deal. And you start to know each other. And because it's women, somehow you have the connection right away with each other. And that really, really helps a lot. Because most of the women actually are first-time investors that we have in our network. And it's just hard to get in. So it's good to find your tribe around you and to do it together.
It sounds like it's a very welcoming community where everyone can kind of learn as a team.
Learn as a team, yeah. And I mean, every month we have our what we call hot deal call if there's a deal that we need to make a decision on. But usually we only need half of the time of that. So the other half, one of the angels is sharing some of their own knowledge, because there's so much about like your expertise area. What are the trends? What are the startups that are hot and happening? And what are you seeing? What are you looking for in a startup related to your industry, so that we keep on learning? Or, I mean, I sometimes share something about the different deal structures. You have things like a safe notes. It's the most common structure to invest in, and it's relatively easy, but if you've never heard about it, you just don't know. And so it's all about sharing that initial knowledge with each other it's a safe place where you can ask every dumb question, like question that you feel like, oh, I should know this. This is the place to ask and to share that with each other. Yeah.
You started talking about this a little bit, but I just picked up on it again about when you look at pitch deck, you're only spending 4 or so minutes on it, and venture capitalists are spending even less. So with Epic Angels in particular, what are you looking for to consider investing in a startup?
Especially since we're usually at the point that they've launched their products. There might already be some revenue, hopefully. I mean, we're definitely, because you have the first phase, which is called pre-seed. That is typically where they only have an idea. They didn't launch anything yet. And that's when they get for money, it's called the Friends Family Fools Round. So that's where they get just some people that are a little closer to them that would invest it, or someone that's really deep in the industry that says like, yeah, I understand this industry, so I'm willing to invest in just an idea. Then you have the seed round. So that's typically where the angels invest in, where they just launched something. They have a little bit of revenue, a little bit of traction that's slowly getting there, but now they really want to launch it. So maybe they just launched the beta version. Now they really want to launch. So they need some initial money to get that going. And then roughly a year after that, they should go into their Series A, where they're really going to ramp up and further scale into the product market fit. So what do you look for, especially at that moment? I mean, you can look at financials, but honestly, those decks sometimes really give me a headache. You always have these beautiful sheets in there with the TAM, SAM, SOM, and like the market is billions, and we're gonna attract millions and 20 billion and whatever not. Beautiful numbers on a sheet, but they're useless in my opinion. And the same with revenue forecasts, and they even say like 17.63, and I'm like, where do you get 17.63 from, right? I mean, it's just you all made it up. Just say 20. I mean, that feels just much better, because it's good to give a bit of a range and to give a bit of a direction, but don't pretend it's the truth, because you're nowhere yet. So it's really hard to look at numbers. For me, it's the team. That's the most important part to look into. What we say is we invest in founders who refuse to die, founders who choose agility over ego. And so are they flexible enough to change when they have to change? And then do they refuse to die? Do they keep on going at it and to be like, I need to find a way to make this work, or to find that customer, to make that customer happy. And so that's the key thing that we're looking for in that early stage, and especially the dynamics between the founders. Because if it's a solo co-founder without a real team around him or her, typically it's not very good either. And like how are the people together on the call? That's very important to us.
Yeah, the dynamics of the future leadership team of the business. I want to pull out a question we have from the group, from Meg. Do your angels put up money deal by deal, or is there a fund created as investments happen based on a group decision?
We do deal by deal. And so you have some groups as well that are more acting as a fund. So everyone chips in 10K, 20K, whatever not. And then it's often sort of the fund manager that makes the final decisions, because it becomes hard if you're with a lot of angels to have everyone agree. You typically agree on the criteria, and then the fund manager makes the final decisions. Here we invest on a deal by deal basis. So because especially it's the beginning, like we really want to make sure we help people from 0 to 1. And then you can further expand, and then you can do other things because you're like, okay, I'm comfortable. I've done it now a few times. Good. Now I'm ready to do some other stuff as well. I don't exclude that in a few years from now, we might have a fund as well. But I really want to make sure, because there's one angel as well. She literally told me, like, Maaike, I have more money than time. I don't have time to look at all those startups. Which one should I invest in? You know, and so that's good that you start to get some of those followers as well that say like, hey, we trust you. We know that you're doing some great things. So we trust you with our money to invest, basically to run a fund. So I definitely see some future there, but not at the moment. I think right now our angels really love it to speak with the founder, to really be involved and to decide per deal what we're doing.
So it's really interesting that you mentioned 0 to 1. So for the founder, for the entrepreneur, what services are you, beyond funding, what other services does Epic Angels provide them?
Yeah, that's the other fun part, the whole mentorship that comes with it. And so whenever a startup is pitching, startups can pitch through a website. They have to fill out a form with some questions and attach their deck to it. And one of the questions is also, are you looking for a mentor or for a board member? And if so, what kind of skills are you looking for? And all our angels love that. I mean, and I think you probably all recognize that as well. It's just so much fun to work with these startups, work with that talent, people that are so eager to change the world and to make something happen. It's just, it's so good to help them and to be with them. I mean, I invested in many startups, so I can't be active in all of them, but some you are, and then they ask you maybe to become a board member or to just become a strategic advisor. You help them, and in general, like we also coach the startups a little bit. I tell every startup I expect an update every quarter. I don't need a PowerPoint deck. Just give me 5 bullets in an email. That's more than enough. I know you're busy, right? Your job shouldn't be keeping me happy. Your job is to work on your company. Just give me 5 bullets on what's going on, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I need to know the ugly as well, because maybe I can help you with that. So also make sure in every quarterly updates, you give me an ask. What is it that you're looking for? Even if it's a simple share this post because I'm looking for this and this person to join our team. Perfect. Maybe I know someone who could be the next COO of your company, or maybe you're looking for specific customers and I can help you, or whatever it is that you're working on at that moment. We have a network and we can help you. And so I think that's the fun, because in the beginning, sometimes startups feel like almost you're not the enemy, but you're sort of the enemy. And they're like, I need to tell this beautiful, polished story about my company because I want you to invest. But I think in the end, it's all about trust and transparency. And you're on the same side as an investor and as a startup. It's in my interest as well that the startup is going to flourish. So please drag me in and we'll help you. That's what we're here for.
So I want to learn a little bit more about Epic Angels' portfolio. So in addition to being, focused on obviously the Asian market, trying to attract female entrepreneurs, do you have a particular sector you're focused on? And if not, are you seeing a trend in the sectors that are coming to you?
It's really across every industry. All our angels have different backgrounds, different interest areas. So that's definitely reflected. Fintech, we definitely have quite a lot in that field. And personally, I'm also very attracted to fintech. My co-founder, Hester, she is very deep in edtech education. So naturally, a lot of those deals come our way. But we just have a new angel that joined us. She's very deep in blockchain and crypto. And that's actually a field that I haven't done anything in. So, I mean, I've done some fun crypto things on the side, but never real in startups. So it's really nice to see that when she joined us, immediately you see some of those startups following her as well and finding her because she's so deep into the scene. A lot of deep tech these days. And I'm like, what's deep tech? Still, no one's been able to really explain that to me. But like super tech is how I still explain that. And so there's so much happening here in the region. I think everything is here. Personally, I think the real booming scenes is biotech, just more from an opportunity perspective. I think we're only at the start of where biotech is right now. And I think that's an area that's going to surprise us. I mean, look at how we can make meat out of nothing, and how we can make lab-grown chickens. And the first ones here in Singapore. That happens. So, I mean, right now it's still super expensive to get that done. But I really expect that in a few years from now, the cost of creating such a thing is really going to be reduced. And that will bring so many new opportunities for everyone to work on and so many different problems that we can solve because we're just much more advanced in the whole biotech scene. So I think that's just one that I'm excited about. And at the same time, I don't know a lot about it either. So it also makes it hard to like, what's really a good one to invest in. And so then it's about like having some people around you in a network that can help you out with those questions.
Well, given that there seems to be no shortage of opportunities to invest in, what is your goal in terms of the number of investments and investment size for 2022?
Yeah, so it's like Hester and I, my co-founder and I, were often like, oh, it's like a kid in a candy store here. There's all these opportunities and they're all so good. And, you know, it's just so much fun to be working with these startups and to speak with them. I'm like, oh, you know, I like that, I like that. No, so what we see, we want to get to 100 angels. With our group. That's where we want to get to today. We're right now at 20. So we have some way to go between 20 and 100, but we're definitely on track. So something that's reachable. With that, the minimum that I expect that we're going to invest is $500,000. And so I would be super happy if we can say like, yeah, you know, we did $500,000 this year, and then I think it can easily go much higher in the next year, even with just the 100 angels that we're having. And because I mean, we can do the math. If everyone does 25K, you know, we really are getting somewhere with 100 angels. So I think that's super good.
So you mentioned some of your angels, how there's one person has a background in education tech and you're interested in fintech. Are your angel investors investing as a side gig in addition to a day job, or are your angel investors really, this is their main thing they're focused on?
All side gigs. I think everyone has their day job. There's now one lady that's literally, she just 2 weeks ago quit her CEO job, and she gave herself a break now. Like, okay, for this year, I'm actually not going to take another full-time job, and I'm going to do lots of things, and angel investing is just one of those, just to allow herself a bit of freedom. But that's the exception. I think everyone else is having a full-time job. Yeah. And a senior job, you know, they're all, I mean, you have to be an accredited investor. So it does mean you need to have that income available.
Well, it makes it sound also like that it's doable, from that you can have your day job and also carve out time to, you know, have this be a passion project and invest it in others. So I want to make sure I leave a little time and encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to put any questions in the chat. But before doing so, from questions from me, I thought I'd conclude by sharing with Maaike, to the extent she is not already aware, how at Quorum we spend a lot of time thinking about how we can take action for ourselves and for others. So with that mission of Quorum in mind, what other advice do you have for this group about taking action to support investing in women?
No, I think definitely in terms of angel investing, check out those platforms that I shared, right? I mean, I'm not sure if that the second message didn't come through, maybe. Let me put that in there just to be sure as well. So you have AngelList, Republic, and WeFunder. Just check them out, browse a little. Most often, especially Republic, I think you can sort on female founder even. So you can immediately see like, hey, you know, that's a female founder. That's the one that I want to go for. So that's really good immediately, and I think that helps to get familiar. It's even fun just to sign up and just go through some of the decks. There's some good decks, usually some videos. There's some conversations happening. Just reading through that, probably you will learn a lot from it already. And if you feel like it, like, you know, you can invest with as little as $100, and that's the first step in.
So there really is an ability for anyone out there to help invest in women in particular. So I'm going to take a look at the chat, but also we're a relatively small group. So also feel free to take yourself off mute if you want to throw a question out. And so I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss any questions.
Maaike, I wanted to just sort of build on your comment earlier about how often women leave money in the bank but not invested. And there's we have someone in our community, her name is Claire Mason from the UK, who just did a huge study with Bank of New York Mellon. And they did a huge research piece about talking to all the asset managers out there about how women invest or don't and what does it look like and la la la. Anyway, one of the big conclusions that they came up with is that if women invested not just in the public market but just in general, put capital at play, basically that's sort of the notion, that there would be $3 trillion more in the market, if you can imagine, moving.
Yeah.
And what I found fascinating, that some of their conclusions around it was the other things that tend to go with what women do is, one, they tend to invest, just like you mentioned, in women or products or business models that speak to them. So let's put it, speak to their values. So that's a big thing. And that a lot of what they tend to invest in are things that make the world better for all of us, not, you know, rather than, I don't know, this is no knock on anything, but maybe just a fashion brand or something, you know what I mean, where it actually is. So I thought that was fascinating because that's a lot of money, obviously, you know. And so what that says is there's a lot of hurdles. So what's interesting about what you're talking about is like, what do you see as the biggest hurdles that have happened that are kind of keeping women from dabbling or dipping toes, or that's the expression you guys talked about earlier, you and Nicole?
Yeah, it is so, I mean, I gotta say, like, even I doubt every time again, you know, it definitely is in our nature. And what helps me is to really set aside a budget. And I think a lot of women are very organized and are very goal driven. The funny part is, if I set that goal for myself, like, oh, I didn't meet my goal yet because I haven't spent the money yet. I haven't invested it yet. So for me, it really works as a bit of an incentive. Right now, unfortunately, I have the other problem. I'm like, I'm hitting my goal a little too fast now, because now I'm all in. And definitely in the beginning, I was like, no, I deliberately want to do that. I mean, and I like to do that. Like, I set a budget. I even set every month for my salary. When my salary comes in, I automatically allocate it into the different buckets. I even have separate accounts for that. So I have my angel investment account, and I put that money in my angel investment account so that I know, okay, this is for angel investment. That's what I reserved it for. So I should spend it on that as well, because that's what this is for. So those type of things help me to get started. And then you're also in control, because you know, like, okay, that's the budget and I'm just going to stay within those limits. and that's what I'm going to spend.
So we just got a great question from Evelyn. Maaike, does your company have any programs that educate or train those who are maybe not ready to be an angel investor just yet, but could be in a few years? And I'll just add to that, if not Epic Angels, if you don't have that service, do you know of any?
Yes, we don't have it yet. It's definitely on our list for sure, because we see it more often. That question comes in, and it's a fun field to learn more about. This whole angel investment and like, how does it work? What do you look for? There are a couple of programs out there. I'll gather them and I will send them to Diane. I will share them with you so that you can further share them, because there are a few really good ones out there that I really like, that are good. I followed some programs as well from Kaufman Fellows, for example, and there was a program that I followed. There's some books out there of angel deals. I have a book here. It's right here. Inside Secrets to Angel Investing. This is also, if you get this book on Amazon, I actually just bought it for our angels, so it's haven't shipped it to them yet. That's why it's lying here. If you get that, you can also get on her website. You get access to a lot of tools that you can use, and I liked it for that, because it was not just a book, but it came with a lot of tools that you can use as well.
Like, you made a comment at the beginning about how one of your angels said, like, I have the funds, I don't have the time. So maybe they'll, gosh, something we should all aspire to, but maybe eventually you'll have a fund. But kind of at the opposite end of that spectrum, one thing that kind of jumped out for me is this idea of, if I was to invest, I love the idea of then also giving my time, because it's only going to help my investment, right? So that being it. So with that notion in mind, what's the breakdown of your angel investors in terms of how much time they're giving to their investments, and what does that look like?
I mean, I think it's what you want yourself, for sure, because there's always multiple investors and not every investor can be active. I think the startup founder would go crazy if that would happen. I think often they actually appreciate a little bit more if you're sort of like a bit more from a distance, unless there is something really specific that you can help them with. And then there is usually that very specific ask, like, could you help me with this? And then you say yes or you say no, and then that's what you go for. So it's usually pretty much scoped what you're doing.
Great. Any other questions?
Maaike, you had mentioned that a lot of the deal flow that you're getting is coming from accelerators. I was reading something recently too. There's a talk about for entrepreneurs, if they have the luck of having acceleration support, whatever that looks like, they tend to have a better shot at being long-term successful. Has that been your experience too?
Yeah, I think because the accelerator programs, where some of them have really good curriculum that will really help you with your business.
Right.
Some of them don't, but what they all have typically is a good network around them.
Right.
And that network is the most crucial thing that you need as a startup. Raising funds is a full-time job, and running your startup is also a full-time job. So it's so hard to do it. So that acceleration program will absolutely help you to get in touch with the right people. I mean, I see it myself. If it comes through the accelerator, I'll look at it with more interest. I mean, I also have it, of course, on my LinkedIn profile that I'm an angel investor. So I do get a lot of pitches through LinkedIn as well. That's a big source, but unfortunately, the majority of it, I can just immediately say, no, thank you. Without, within those 3.5 minutes, I've like, nope. And it's so embarrassing. Like the other day as well on LinkedIn, I got this message from someone. Dear sir, please find attached my pitch deck. And I was like, oh, really? You didn't even take the time to just look at my profile. You just saw the word investor and you're like, dear sir. Like, okay, yeah, interesting.
A missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. Yeah, I have the philosophy. I'm answering everyone who's submitting their pitch deck. Everyone, it's in my nature. I don't know. There's a lot of, the VC world where it's a lot of arrogance happening, and I don't believe in that. I'm like, no, everyone should get a decent reply. So even this one that said, "Dear sir," got a reply. Although my reply was very short, like, next time, just take a look at the profile. You would have addressed me in a different way. I did not even open his deck for sure, but indeed, like, I think that's part of it as well. I think, and that's also part of being female investors. I think we're a bit more human, and make that connection, because these startup founders are working hard. And so, and it's a good opportunity to give them feedback, even if you don't invest.
Well, the startup community is certainly lucky to have you, Maaike, and in Singapore, nonetheless. Amazing where your journeys have taken you. So thank you so much for your time. I've certainly learned a lot, and hopefully everyone has been as inspired as I am. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Meg and Diane.
Thanks, Nicole. Maaike, thank you, because full disclosure, Maaike reached out to me about a year ago, maybe. Maaike, we're in touch relatively regularly anyway, but she said, "You won't believe what I'm doing. You have to hear all about it. We have to get together, So I got on a call with her, and she was explaining what she was up to. And I was like, oh my God, it's so inspiring, because something that Maaike knows has been a big passion of mine is my concern about not enough money flowing to women, full stop. And also the notion about how women get more involved in that capital flow. So those two things have been, something I've thought a lot about and worried about, and tried to think about, how do I show up differently or participate differently, first and foremost myself, but even more largely Quorum. And she had said to me at the time, she was like, Quorum ought to consider doing something like this. It's just perfect for your network. I'm just telling you. So she planted that seed. I have to admit, full disclosure, I'm just going to admit all of that. And so I was like, well, okay, why don't you help me plant that seed and come talk to some of the Quorum community, just to help people think about this idea or get familiar or imagine, the power of what can happen when women get together with a mission, and share expertise and kind of take things forward, how powerful that is. So I really, Maaike, totally appreciate you taking time. It's late in Singapore, and we really appreciate it. And Nicole, thanks for all the terrific facilitation, because I think we learned a lot in this call today. So big appreciation. So Maaike, if we were all together, I think we would sort of probably start brainstorming on a whiteboard about what next, together as a group. I'm sure that would have been one of the outcomes. We also would have given you a big hug to thank you for sharing what you're working on and being so open and available to explain what you've learned and what you're passionate about. So we really, really appreciate that here at Quorum. So thank you. Kind of big round of applause for you. Thank you. And then the last thing I wanted to say to the Quorum community, just a big shout out that we have an upcoming retreat happening in upstate New York, about 2 hours from Manhattan, about 5 hours from DC, a little bit farther for London, but nonetheless, and even farther for Singapore. But ladies, you who are out of town, we would love to see you. So that's happening on May 20th through the 22nd, Diane, if I got my dates right. Is that right? So I want to give a shout out, because there'll be information going out to tell you all about that starting next week. So just keep that in mind. And so Rebecca or Maaike, if you find yourself wanting to be in the States and want to join us, we would love to have you. And there's all kinds of great programming coming up, so stay tuned and pay attention to all the amazing emails Diane puts out. She works very hard at that. But there's just a lot of great content coming out in the next couple months. So I invite you to participate when and where you can. And I think we'll close on a huge thank you to Nicole and Maaike for such a great conversation today. Really appreciate it. And wishing everybody a great rest of their week. I wish I could kind of hug you all. I miss you. Just so you know.
Thank you, Maaike.
One day.